It's International Women's Day, so usually around this time of the year, we are deluged with articles on gender equality and tips for women on how to not only get a seat at the table, but stay at the table. Hi, my name is Sunita Gaideen, and I'm a director in technology and operations. I'm not about to add to that deluge of advice, but I am going to talk to you today about how to get a seat at the table and not only get a seat, but stay there by reinventing yourself. So I have been a director at RBC for the last 7 years, and prior to that, I was in the telecommunications industry. So all in all, 19 years of experience, and over that time, I've always tried to keep myself abreast with the leadership skills that successful women leaders are exhibiting in industry today. One such popular, successful female leader is Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook. And she published a book back in 2013 called Lean In, and it was so popular in terms of giving female advice that it kind of coined the term Lean In for women leadership. And if you didn't read the book, some of you might have, you know that the book touches on advice for women. So some of the things she talks about are, how to achieve a work-life balance, how to make sure that your partner is pulling some of the same weight at home, and not to expect your career to be linear, and not to be afraid to take a chance. Now, we've heard that advice a few different places, and when I read the book, I found it hard to relate to that advice because that book was written almost 4 years ago, and so much has happened in industry in the last 4 years that I found myself wondering, why aren't those traditional leadership recommendations for women also changing with the changes that are happening in industry today? And as a matter of fact, I believe that the digitization era and the same disruption it's causing to businesses and to the business is forcing organizations to think about their business model differently, is also forcing different leadership paradigms. So those that are successful not only need to lean in, they need to do so much more than that to not only get a seat at the table, but to stay there. And any successful woman leader will tell you that herself as well. So what I want to talk about today is 5 critical leadership skills that I think are important to the digital era. And I'm not only going to talk about them, I'm going to tell you how you can demonstrate them by using my own past experience. And more importantly, I'm going to tell you how you can reinvent them for your current situation. Okay, let's look at our first critical leadership skill. So I think an important leadership skill for the digital era is to become an agent of change by building a culture of change. We've heard this one before, but what does that really mean? If you put the 2 words culture and change together, it tends to send shivers up the spine of anyone, because it sounds like wholesale changes that you need to do that are going to be frustrating and difficult. But if you take those 2 words on their own, they take on a different meaning. So let's look at the word culture. When I think about culture, I think about my values. Who taught me my values? My parents. And usually I think most of you can relate to that. And your mom played more of an active role in that usually. So I think back to when I was younger, my mom taught me how to share. Back when I was 2 years old, she was teaching me how to share my toys with other kids. But as I grew older, she also continued to teach me how to share, but she changed the way that she was doing it. So she continued to teach me how to share by taking me to food banks, encouraging me to give back to charity, being grateful for what I have by showing that I could share it with others. So she was essentially my first agent of change, or my first example of an agent of change. She took a value that was important to our family, and she changed the way she showed me how to exhibit it. You know who has values? RBC has values. We think of our collective ambition, and we look at our diversity value. Diversity for innovation and growth. A few years ago, what that meant was that we looked at our workforce and made sure that the people that worked at RBC represented the diversity in our communities. And if you look around RBC, we were really successful at that, and we continue to be. But now it's about diversity of thought. How do we bring diversity of thought into our organization? And there's no better way to show diversity of thought than by being open to new ideas and making sure your team is open to new ideas. Sometimes Getting diversity of thought in a banking environment can be hard. We all know that getting folks that have been doing things a certain way for a certain period of time to reinvent themselves can be difficult. So the way that I do it in my job is I incent them. So I incent them to come to me with new ideas and different ways of doing things. I rotate people out of their comfort zone so that they get some exposure to something new. But more importantly, I supplement the team with people that bring new ideas, new ways of doing things. And I make sure that I recruit for that in mind and set the person up for success when they start here. Our second leadership skill, challenge the status quo, dare to ask why. In our pursuit to leadership positions, women often tend to gravitate towards going with the flow. We think that that's the way to get there because others were successful, and the media propagates that message. Look at our friend Hillary Clinton. When she ran for the presidency the first time and the second time, she was often compared to her male counterparts in the way they presented themselves and in the message they were delivering. But if the digitization era has taught us nothing, is that going with the flow not only assures you failure, but guarantees it. So look at the taxi industry. Had they seen Uber coming and the disruption that Uber caused, they would have been able to challenge the status quo earlier and perhaps come up with their own rideshare app before Uber was able to do so. So look at what going with the status quo caused to the taxi industry. So I would argue that going with the status quo is not going to get you where you need to get in the digitization era. I would suggest to you that you need to be brave enough to challenge it. And let me give you an example. A few years ago, I was a manager in a telecommunications firm. At this point, I was a junior level manager and I was managing their billing application and the processes around it. This company grew by acquisition, so it's an internet, phone, and cable company, and they grew by acquiring other companies. Every acquisition brought new processes, brought new customers, brought new employees, brought new systems, and none of it was integrated. So if you had a problem with your service, you would have to call a different 1-800 number if it's phone service, different 1-800 number if it's an internet service, and you got different bills. It was annoying. I was a customer and I was annoyed. So I started to look at my own world, billing applications and billing processes. Was there an opportunity for us to consolidate views, to give one view to the customer, one bill to the customer? Started to make small changes. At first it was hard to convince people that it was important to do this, but they saw the value once they saw the process efficiency, once they saw the cost efficiency. So I encourage you to do the same. Our third critical leadership skill, become client-focused as opposed to product-focused, application-focused, or channel-focused. Survival in the digitization era relies on a superior customer experience. If Apple taught us nothing, it's that a superior customer experience will trample the competition, BlackBerry in this case. Women, in their pursuit towards perfectionism and towards leadership positions, tend to have a tunnel vision towards what they're doing. Given anything to lead, they tend to focus all their energy on making sure what they're leading is the best. And what this tends to encourage is a bit of a siloed view. Too often, I've worked for organizations that organize themselves by application, by product, by channel. And this in itself encumbers an end-to-end view. What I tend to do in my own team is I look at the customers that I'm serving and I organize around the customer experience. So in my current role in wealth technology, my systems support the investment advisors, but I'm one of many systems that support the investment advisors in what they do day to day. So I look at their end-to-end process and I organize my managers to make sure that they own the process as well as the system end-to-end. Anytime they need to make a change to improve the process or improve the system, they're forced to look at the full end-to-end experience the advisor is faced with. That not only focuses them to design with the customer experience in mind, but it also focuses them to solution with the customer focus in mind. Our fourth critical leadership skill, build a fluid team by demonstrating flexibility. The digitization era and the pace of change it's forcing on organizations is forcing the need to be comfortable with ambiguity. Just as you get comfortable, there's another app or or a startup on the horizon that is ready to cause discomfort. All too often, I will look at women and how they manage their careers and wonder if they realize how important it is to embrace ambiguity. There's no better way to show that you have flexibility and can embrace ambiguity than in how you manage your career path. Far too often, I still meet women that stay in their current roles and continue to work in their current roles in hopes of being promoted. They believe the promotion is the reward for their toil and effort. I myself have fallen victim to this. But when I look at what disruption is causing to business models, I not only see that it's challenging leadership paradigms, I also see that it's challenging traditional organizational paradigms. So centralized hierarchies are giving way to decentralized hierarchies. Traditional roles such as product managers and product owner and business analysts are giving way to scrum masters and product owners. So that's when I see that happening, I feel that in order for me to set myself up for success and my team up for success, is I need to be mindful of what are the skill sets and the capabilities that are in demand right now, and create opportunities within my team for my team members to get exposure to those new skill sets, and for me myself to get exposure to those new skill sets. Is that going to guarantee promotion? Probably not. But today's success is less measured by promotion and more measured by diversity of skills. So even if it doesn't lead to promotion, it has in the past for me opened the doors to other leadership opportunities, either within RBC or outside. Our fifth and final critical leadership skill. Don't be afraid to fail. Take a chance, experiment. In our quest for leadership positions, I find women try to avoid failure as much as possible. And I think the reason for that is they fear the recovery from failure will take too long and they'll lose too much in their career growth to be successful. But there's been so many successful male leaders that have failed terribly. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they have all demonstrated resiliency. And in the digitization era, as long as you can learn quickly from your failures, you're almost more successful. Experimentation, by its very definition, suggests that you try things a few times and learn each time you try from them. Look at YouTube, bought by Google a few years ago for billions. When it was first bought, they struggled to determine how to make it profitable. They could have made it a subscription-based service, but had they done that, they would have certainly lost YouTube's loyal following to other free internet streaming providers that have come on the scene since then. They eventually hit the jackpot when they realized that they could run commercial content that would be seen by YouTube's loyal following. They started with small organizations and ran small commercials, and then the bigger players got wind of it. So now Warner Music, Sony Music pay YouTube to run their full-length music videos. But the trick is they wouldn't have known that if they didn't experiment. The trick with experimentation is to quickly experiment. And if you do fail, learn from your failures, be resilient, and try again. What I tend to favor in my line of work is to do small proof of concepts so that I'm not investing a lot of time, a lot of money, but I'm able to show that there's a benefit there. And if it's successful, then we can launch it into a full-blown initiative. But what doing small proof of concepts does, gets my team comfortable to the concept, gets me comfortable to the concept, and I can also stand behind what I'm doing. And also, if it's going to fail, it's not going to fail and be costly to RBC or costly to my resource time. So there you have it, the 5 critical leadership skills that I believe women need to exhibit in the digitization era to not only get a seat at the table, but stay there. So I want to close today with a call to action. I encourage you all to go back to your roles and think about the examples that I gave you for the 5 critical leadership skills, and think about how can you reinvent those critical leadership skills in your own team, in your own environments. And I look forward to seeing you not only with a seat at the table, but reinventing it.